Hello and welcome to Talk Truth. My name is Corey Huntsberger. I've got my father, Alan Huntsberger, in the studio, and we're going to start off with our foundational verse because we need it. We need it.
The earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants belong to the Lord. For he laid its foundation on the seas and established it on the rivers. Psalms 24, 1 and 2.
Why is that verse important? And why do I snicker?
It's important because God has created everything and he planned everything before the world ever began. Now, a lot of people say, then why are we going through such difficult times? Let me read you 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 6. It says, you rejoice in this, though now for a short time you have had to struggle in various trials, so that the genuineness of your faith, more valuable than gold, which perishes, though refined by fire, may result in praise, glory, honor, and revelation of Jesus Christ. Now, just quickly, for a short time, you have to endure various trials, but these trials serve a purpose. And the purpose is so that the genuineness of your faith, the key word here is genuineness, because if there is a genuine faith, then there's also a false faith. Is it possible to have a counterfeit faith instead of a real one? Absolutely. Just as this is truth, there is also deception. So how can you know whether our faith is real or false? The answer lies in trials. Canada is going through one of the most hellfire trial it probably has ever gone through in the creation of this country. And God is wanting to find out, do you want the real, genuine land, God keep our land glorious and free, or do you want a land that's dictated of how you're going to live by the Chinese government? Now let's go to our guest and he'll explain the rest.
Well, thank you, Pastor Alan. I appreciate that. I agree. We're going to go on to our guest, Mr. Leighton Grey. Welcome back to the show, Leighton.
Wow, Alan, you're starting off with the fire and brimstone today. Wow.
He is.
That's some hellfire preaching right there. That's good stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I'm no, it's great to be back. And I expect I'm getting a hint that Alan might want to talk about the election. Is that where you guys want to go today?
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, the last time I was on your show, apparently I created a bit of a furor by telling people about Canada's furor. That's Mr. Carney, who I described in a recent commentary on my show as carnage. But, I really have to keep beating this drum so people understand who this man is. And you only have to look at what he says. He's written a book called Values, which was published in about 4 years ago. It was during the pandemic. And there he basically said that his vision for Canada is a net zero future in which we essentially surrender all of our freedoms to the government so that it can protect us from the evils of capitalism. That sounds really crazy, but he really means it. And then when you consider this, he wrote an op-ed in the Globe and Mail in 2022 during the Freedom Convoy, saying that Tamara Leach and Chris Barber and everyone else who was there should be tried and prosecuted not for mischief, but for sedition. That's basically for crimes against the state, for committing crimes against the state. That is a crime for which we used to have the death penalty in this country. So that gives you an idea of who he is, but it gets worse. He's declared economic warfare on Alberta. His plan is he's going to shut down the oil industry. He's not even going to allow Alberta, to ship oil, to develop it and even harvest it out of the ground. Well, what that is, if you understand what oil and gas means to Canada, to Alberta, and to the world, it means starvation. Before we began harvesting and burning fossil fuels about 200 years ago, basically people lived in a state of almost constant starvation, except for, the very rich and the royals. But now today, through the miracle of the oil and gas that got put in the ground for us to harvest and to use, over 6,000 products, many of which we take for granted, not just gas for your car and heat for your homes, but all the stuff that's on your desk right in front of you, the cameras, the camera I'm staring into right now, the microphone I'm using, it's all oil and gas, folks. And without it, we couldn't produce food. We can't produce any of the energy that we need for any of the products that we use. It would basically kill our economy and achieve the main objective of the World Economic Forum, which Mr. Carney is all about, and that is to reduce the world's population by 7/8. Okay, think about that. Look at 8 people in a room, 7 of them are gone. That's what they want. And why do they want that? Because they want to control everything and they want to own everything. So that's who our prime minister right now. That's who our prime minister is right now. And he's our prime minister in a country where our houses of parliament have been shut down since January. It's April. We've had our houses of parliament, our elected representatives, are basically doing nothing. Well, they're involved in a little thing called an election, but that's not serving you and my. That's serving themselves. Meanwhile, apparently there's an armed gunman at the House of Commons, and we don't know his identity. A friend of mine joked that it was Justin Trudeau with an AR-15 wanting to get back in office, but I'm sure that's not the case because he's made a couple of personal appearances around the world. But it gets worse. And I'm going to say something that people might not like because I know many people are big fans of Danielle Smith, and to some degree I am too. But I've come to believe that Danielle Smith is the greatest impediment to Alberta independence. She's a federalist. She thinks that we can restore Canada to its former glory. That Canada can become the country that she grew up in when she was a student at University of Calgary in the 1990s. And despite the fact that she's been given polling information that 3 out of 10 Albertans want out of Canada, and all 3 of those who voted in favor are her supporters, the other 7 clearly are not, she's ignoring that. And she's making all this passive aggressive statements with Ottawa. Now she's released 9 key items that if the federal government only changed them, that everything would be great in Canada again. And I think Danielle Smith has revealed the fact that she has designs not on being our premier, but on being our prime minister. She actually wants to be in control of all this mess. And she actually has subscribed to the delusion that we can fix it. That is a delusion, folks. It can't be fixed. Canada is deeply, deeply damaged politically, ideologically, and spiritually. It would take a miracle to fix it. And I'm speaking to Albertans in your audience here. Our only solution, the only way we can really save Canada is the Canada that we have in our own communities, and that's to get out of Canada. That's to become an independent country. We would be the richest, most free, most prosperous, debt-free nation in the world, in partnership with the most powerful, most successful, richest nation in the history of the world. That's what Alberta 51 would be. And that's why I'm saying to Canadians, this whole national election really, in my estimation, is a mirage. It's a distraction from what's really going on in the country. And if you want to know what's really going on in the country, folks, yesterday, Mark Carney and the Liberal Party were discovered for the 3rd straight time in our 45th general election, just like the 44th and the 43rd. It's a hat trick now. The 2019, 2021, and 2025 federal elections have all been influenced by the Communist Party of Canada. CSIS, our own investigative service, this watchdog, has discovered that through an app called WeChat that the CCP is influencing Chinese Canadians and others. It has a reach of over 1 billion followers, and is touting Mark Carney to be our next prime minister. So 3 straight times of proven Chinese interference. And what is the reaction? Nothing. This is proof positive, folks. In a property-run country, Mark Carney would be disqualified immediately from being eligible to even run for prime minister. But this landed with a yawn. Nobody even noticed it. And this is proof positive that Canada is controlled by the CCP. Donald Trump and his administration know it, and that is why they're so interested in the domestic politics of Canada. It's because Chinese influence in Canada, they are running our government. Chinese influence in Canada poses a geopolitical threat to the safety and security of the United States, and that translates into dangerous migrants entering the country through borders. And by the way, folks, people are flooding into Canada every day. Our borders are wide open. Fentanyl still flooding across the border. There's still super labs of fentanyl in Canada operating. And so it's totally natural that Donald Trump would be very concerned about what's happening in Canada. And I don't think that's going to change whether Mark Carney or Pierre Poilievre become our next prime minister.
Alan, why do you, well, I'm just going to throw this to both of you guys. Why do you think Canadians are like that? Is that because they're under a trance? They're brainwashed? They were educated to be not critical or to speak out? Is it because they're paralyzed because they don't know what to say or what to do? What is it? Dad, what do you think it is?
Well, it sometimes baffles me, Corey, of why. Part of it is the media. You know, I mean, we're paying media to tell them what to say and how to say it.
Yeah, we're
And
paying.
so-
Taxpayers
Yeah,
are paying media to tell us lies.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so you aren't getting the full picture. You know, a lot of people hate Donald Trump, and yet the issue is, Canada's problems has got nothing to do with Donald Trump. Canada's problems has everything to do with the Liberal government and the NDP government, at least, and maybe even the Conservative government, where we've got away from representation, and we've never really had representation. Taxation without representation is tyranny, and that's exactly what we have here. We do not have, in BC, for example, there's new laws being written right now that are going to cause people to completely not have free speech at all. And here's the problem. Canadians are doing nothing about it. It's like they're laying down and letting the politicians say what they want and do what they want, and the people are doing nothing. And in a democracy, who's responsible for a democracy? The people. It's the people. And it's like, well, I don't care what your government says. What do the people think? That's the issue. And I think that people want freedom. I mean, Alberta wants freedom. Right. Alberta wants families. Alberta wants farms. Alberta wants prosperity. Alberta, doesn't want what is going to happen if we don't wake up soon enough. But I always believe whether people wake up or don't, and I'll shut up after this. Well, God's in control.
It's your show, Al.
Well, I will say this, though. I do feel the people want someone to tell them what to do. And I don't think we have a leader that's a freedom, truth, God-fearing leader in Canada standing up and speaking out. Because Canadians really do want someone to tell them what to do. And we don't have that person in place right now. Right, Leighton?
Well, I agree with you in part. I think Canadians are accustomed to having someone tell them what to do. What they really need is someone to come and show them the way. That's what we need in Alberta. That's the lack. That's what we don't have in Canada. We don't have the kind of leadership that Donald Trump is providing to America. Say what you like about him. He's providing strong leadership to them. He's leading them somewhere. They don't know yet where he's going, but he's leading. And whatever happens with his current policies, he's prepared to pay the price for his decisions. And that may mean that there won't be a Republican in office come the next presidential election in the United States. I happen to think that Donald Trump has some very, very wise people, very smart people, a very talented team, and they know exactly where they're leading America, and that what's going on right now in the U.S. is a reset of their economy. And actually, if you understand history, you'll know that this has happened previously. The same thing that Donald Trump is doing right now was done right after World War II. It was done right after World War I. It was also done right after the American Civil War.
Yeah.
And each time it led to incredible, unprecedented periods of prosperity for America. And I predict that is exactly what's going to happen again. What is going to happen to Canada remains to be seen. If we get in line with what Trump and the Americans are doing, I think that things bode very well for Canada, just as they did, in the 1950s. Some people are old enough to remember those days. But if we continue to swim against the tide that the Americans are creating, it's going to be disastrous for Canada. We're going to see economic destruction in this country, the likes of which we've never seen. And it will be authored by Mark Carney, who is nothing more than an errand boy sent by a grocery clerk to collect a bill. It's a quote from Apocalypse Now. But what it means is that he's an errand boy for the World Economic Forum, which is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, I think what
Polyev is a good leader and has said an awful lot of good things and has some good policies. But the one thing that scares most of us who understand what's going on in the world, his silence about China is scary.
Yeah. Yes, and his support for the Ukraine war, there's other problems. This idea that the government is going to build houses. But there is what bothers me about the CPC is that fundamentally the progressive arm of that party has now taken over. Those of us old enough to remember the Progressive Conservative Party, the progressives destroyed that party, and when they reunited with Preston Manning and the Reform Party, it revitalized that party and it led them to a victory where Stephen Harper was our prime minister. But that Reform arm of the party is now subservient. It's very clear that the progressives are running that party. I mean, Mr. Poilievre's deputy prime minister is going to be, an LGBTQ advocate who celebrates, Transgender Month. That's who's going to be his deputy prime minister, Melissa Lantsman, whose only qualification for that post is that she was a lobbyist for LGBTQ, at least as far as I can tell. So that's the problem. There's a deep progressive arm that's controlling the CPC, and that's why I think the difference in the CPC and the Liberals is cola wars. Things will only be marginally better for Canadians under a Pierre Poilievre prime ministership, and it'll be even less so for Albertans. Things weren't that great for Albertans under Mr. Harper. They were only good for Albertans in comparison to the travesty that was Justin Trudeau and what is to come with Mark Carney. But the things still are not good for Alberta. They weren't good under Harper.
Yeah.
So isn't the problem though we go back to Alberta and discuss a little bit about that, but isn't the problem there's really no leader for the independents? There's a
Not
lot
yet.
of people. Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
I mean, I think that there may be a Javier Milei. There may be a Donald Trump. Remember, these are people who come from outside of the political structure, or someone like Ms. Meloni in Italy, who's doing great things, or someone like Ms. Le Pen in France, who they're arresting to keep her out of office because she has so much grassroots support. It's certainly possible that a leader like that will come along in Canada, but I haven't seen that person yet. That person has not been revealed yet. But God in his infinite wisdom always has a plan and usually has a solution that most of us don't see until it's been made manifest to us.
Yeah. Well, for everybody who thinks this is hogwash, what's being said here, heresy. Alan, you had a really good point before we started recording. It had to do with tariffs. Give your little tariffs statistic and let's just see if it's still hogwash.
Well, and you're talking about in the tariffs, There's two countries that are trying to fight Donald Trump on tariffs. One is China, and the other one is Canada.
Yeah.
That's it. All the other nations are trying to work out a deal with the United States because they know how important it is, but not China and not Canada. We're the only two nations.
Is there an alignment going on there? That seems interesting.
In law, what you just did there, Alan, we call that corroboration.
Yeah. So Leighton,
thank you.
Leighton, we got 4 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Wrap this up for us. Give us some hope. Besides, drain the swamp and pull the ripcord. How do we navigate this? Because I know a lot of people are waking up, and God bless everyone that's tuning in to this show and just waking up, and you're realizing, oh my goodness, we are in trouble. How can we make things better? What can we do?
Well, I think the most essential thing, the most fundamental thing that people can do is we must not support the Liberal Party of Canada. The Liberal Party of Canada is an administrative arm of the CCP. That is just perfectly clear. The Liberal Party of Canada is no longer the party of Jean Chrétien. It's not even the party that Justin Trudeau took over 10 years ago. It is the administrative arm of the Chinese Communist Party. That is abundantly clear. So everybody who has the ability to vote must not vote Liberal. That's the most important thing. The CPC are not an ideal option, but their policies are better. And as far as anyone can tell, they're not corrupted by the Chinese. And I've noticed, actually, to my surprise, and I'm pleased to see it, that some of the policies that the CPC have been coming out with are looking more and more like MAGA. In fact, Mr. Poilievre recently came out and announced that he was going to have his own version of Doge. And I think that is the number one thing that any prime minister who takes over this country must do, and that is to reduce the size of the public service. We have one federal government worker for every 90 Canadians. Think on that for a moment, how much that's costing us. And all of the abuses that go along with it. So and some of our worst abusers are the members of the House of Commons, 338 of them that haven't worked since January, folks, and we're paying their massive salaries. So I think those are the things that I would focus on. Given the choice between which is the lesser evil, I would say to everyone, vote CPC. For heaven's sakes, don't vote Liberal, because what you're voting for there is Chinese hegemony in the West.
Or NDP.
Well, I think the NDP are finished, and the Liberal Party of Canada has finished them.
Oh, okay.
Taking over their platform.
Dad, your suggestion would be what? Stop watching mainstream media?
Yeah, great suggestion.
Well, I'm just saying, please, it's not what you think it is, and you need to become a critical thinker, and you need to get into the Word of God and ask God to give you wisdom, because we as Canadians have got to draw near to God more than we have ever drawn near to God in our entire history.
Yeah, it's fourth quarter, 2 minutes left on the clock. I'm using football terms. I know you would go with hockey ones there, Leighton, but God can still do a miracle.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And worst case scenario,
all things are possible.
If he can't, he does a flood, right? Drowns everybody in Noah's day. Anyway, Leighton, thank you so much. We really appreciate you and your wisdom, and we'll definitely have you back. I love how you look at things. You really make me think, and I know for some people, they either agree with you or they disagree, but at least this is what it's all about, having the conversation. Start thinking critically. Start doing your own research. That's what I appreciate about you, Leighton. Last time you were on the show, don't believe me. Go research it for yourself. Right. You'll find the truth, and the truth will set you free. So appreciate you, Leighton. We'll have you back. Well, I appreciate Leighton coming back on. I know that he's speaking some words that are not the most popular, but the more you listen to Leighton and you actually do your homework and research, you realize he's pretty smart. He actually knows his stuff, and he's not wrong, right?
Well, this is what comforts me, Corey. The earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants belong to the Lord.
Yeah.
That's what comforts me, because I know that man has just totally destroyed what God ever wanted to happen And God warned us about it, that if we turned against him, here's what would happen. And centuries and governments and peoples have experienced it in the past. And what we've got to do is, if we love our children and our grandchildren and our future, we got to make sure, number one, that we get out and vote. Like, absolutely no excuse. Get out and vote and make your voice heard. Somebody says, well, it does, mine's just one
Doesn't
vote. That
matter.
doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. Everybody has got to get out and vote. Don't miss the opportunity. Otherwise, they could be really serious for us here in Canada.
Yeah, too big to rig. I think that's what the U.S. says. Too big to rig. And maybe we could surprise them by more Canadians than ever in the history of this country going out and voting largely the bad people. That's all I'm going to say. Alan, I just want to show this to you. We just had Dr. Judy on just a couple days ago. I should have asked her about this. Did you know that, like, look, this is no trick. I've got metal sticking to my forehead. As if we don't have enough problems in this world, I've got a key and a coin sticking to my head. You think this is a joke, and get a key out and a coin and try it for yourself. Dad, you try it. Look at this. This is not glue. What is this? What is happening? Is this God's design? Do you think this is God's design? Do you think he designed humans to do this? I just want to know why metal's sticking to my face. Anyway, I digress. Let's get on with our free booklet. We're giving away The Living Stone, A Journey of Transformation. It's yours absolutely free. This is going to help you grow stronger with your relationship with the Lord. It's yours free. We'll send it to you in the mail. All you got to do is call and ask for it. You can go to our toll-free number in Canada, 1-800-915-0056. If you're in the U.S., you can call our toll-free number, 1-800-445-3450. We'll send you the booklet. Dad, why is this book important?
It's important because you got to develop a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. It's that simple.
If you want to help support our mission, keep this truth on the air, we need your support. We do not take government funds. All Canadian media take government funding. We do not. We're supported by you. That's what keeps us free to be able to speak the truth. You can go to our website, gotalktruth.com, click on donate. There's many different ways you can give online that way. You can also do it through the mail, which a lot of people do. You can make the check payable to Heritage Christian Ministries Association and send it to 246 Stewart Green, Suite 3260, Calgary, Alberta, T3H3C8. And you can always call our toll-free number to give that way or for prayer. 1-800-915-0056 is where you call in Canada, 1-800-445-3450 in the U.S. All right, Dad, we're out of time. We'll see you guys later.
Love you.